Okay, let's start today's call. The first agenda item is to look at the current sprints to see if there's any items that or blockers that folks would like to discuss. So I know that there's quite a few tickets updated earlier today. So just want to see if any of those anyone need to discuss, especially maybe you're waiting for information from someone else, or something is not clear, or it has become like a blocker. Anyone on any ticket?
I've just updated the dispensary form. There's a small section I'm waiting for information. Not really a blocker. I did a discussion with Joe about the referrals ordered section.
Okay, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it's the referral location something.
Yeah, so it's a small thing that I think he's going to confirm with the PI. After give me a go ahead so that I can movement.
Right. Oh, fine. So any other tickets or any comments, questions on current Springs ticket?
We still have a problem when downloading form templates and concepts. They are highlighted in blue.
Oh, okay. You know, this only happened to the Huawei device again, correct?
Yeah, it only happens when using the Huawei Y210.
Okay. So anyone experience the same thing except the Huawei phones?
I'm sorry, we also observed that in the Huawei phone, and I was supposed to create Jira tickets for this. So I'll do that after the call. So,
oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks, Kieran. So I think Kieran mentioned last time that he was able to reproduce the same error, the same issue that doing the select form template step. The background is highlighted in blue, and he was able to reproduce in the Huawei device as well. So he was going to, he's going to create tickets on that. So any other things about the current Spring ticket? If not, we'll go to the next agenda item. Is about the ticket status. As you guys know, we are working on the infrastructures for mUzima infrastructure to support bigger community. Our plan is to start in August, and there are several discussions already in our calls and also through email that what kind of ticket status will be sufficient for our needs, so that we will be more prepared once we roll into the mUzima Jira. And but for our current sprint Jira tickets in MPF Jira, Kieran suggested maybe we should also take a look of revising some of them. Kieran, do you want to just talk about that one?
Yeah, sure. So I'm just going to bring the status that I have in mind. So we can start with backlog, which is anything that is not analyzed and that is something still not ready for development. So which is most of the tickets will fall into this category. And then you have ready for development. This is what we currently call open. So the reason why I'm proposing to begin is open is very generic, so I'm not sure what it represents. So calling it ready for development explicitly says that this ticket is ready for development and it's still not developed or it is tested. So then we have on hold as usual. Then we have in development, so all the tickets which are currently in development. So again, changing this from in progress to in development to notify that it's the progress means development. It doesn't mean that it is testing or some other status. Then we have in pre-testing, which is if the Jira ticket requires testing, so we send out the APK and change the status to pre-testing. Then we have in-code review, which is the point where Win looks at the code and then merges. Then we have in-testing, which is when the QA team takes the build and then tests. So this should happen from the master branch. And then we have done, which is all the tickets which are tested and have passed the testing phase. So I think these status should be sufficient. So if others feel we need to add to this, then we can do that.
So I have one question between like in testing and done. So let's say that you know, after the code review, Win generates the APK for us to do the testings, and then we do the final run of testings, and then we confirm that it's working. I think maybe more like a question for Win. What does he need to do in terms of the code, merging the code, or the code already merged? So, like, my question is, if it's working, if the code already merged into the main branch, and then let's say that possibility one is, oh, it's working as expected, it should be closed. The other option would be, you know, it's not working because of ABC. And then do we need to trigger another status in order for Win? So that's one option is like, oh, Win can just go straight to resolve and nothing need to be done. But if it's like need to go back to make more changes, should we move to another stage or still stay at the same stage?
So what I would say is we should not add any more status because that will be confusing. So there are two options. One, either we move it back within the same set of status, or we still keep it in testing, and then whoever worked on the issue can resolve the issue and again can be tested.
So my question is like, okay, let's say like we keep it in testing phase, and then the developers go make changes because of, you know, the unexpected bugs or whatever, and then he or she do another pull request. Win would not be able to tell from pulling from the ticket status that he needs to do another code, code review.
Okay, so then we can move it back to in development, but let's not add any more status. Then the workflow will get complicated.
Okay, then that would solve the problem. Yeah. Would that be okay for everyone?
That will be okay with everyone here.
Okay, cool. So okay, I think if it's okay, I think we'll spell out what that means for each status, and then we'll circulate through the mailing lists, and then if no one disagree, we will just stick to it. If everyone thinks through it and think maybe you have more comments and feedback, and we can discuss further on this one. And let's go to the next item is continuous integration and testing. Kieran, thanks for drafting that really detailed emails to share with some of us. And I think it's kind of like hanging on with what Wayne brought up about the GitHub workflow together. Do you want to walk us through that item?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not sure if everybody got that mail, so I'll just go through the contents of it. So I think broadly the issues that I was trying to bring up are, first one, the software mUzima artifacts like the Android APK and OMods are currently being generated manually. So again, so this is what I know. So if any of these is wrong, then please correct me. So yeah, these artifacts are being generated manually. I'm guessing Win is, after he's doing the merge, is generating the artifacts. So now second problem is that these artifacts are currently not easily discoverable. So generally the way we share this is we upload this to Dropbox and then add comments on the Jira ticket, or we send out the link to Dropbox APK via email. So after a point, you have so many of these comments and so many of these email links that you're not sure what is the right one to pick if you want the latest APK. So the next one is, so we have a few automated tests, but they are not being run. So by automated tests, I mean the unit tests. So they are not being run currently, and some of them are not running, or like they are failing. So that is something that is, basically we are not using the test that we have. So there may be real issues that they are trying to real issues there which are not being caught because the tests are not being run. And the last point was that most of the testing is manual. So it kind of relates to the previous point wherein we have tests but they're not being run. And I'm guessing that we're not actively writing tests also. So there could be a lot of reasons. Like one, like as I said, Android, it's difficult to write tests, and it's also about following it as a practice. So for whatever reason, I feel the amount of automated testing is not sufficient, and we are relying on manual testing a lot. So which means that we'll have to retest pretty much entire application whenever there's a big change. So that's another thing that I feel is an issue in the long run. So these are the 4 issues, and so the solutions that we could think of while brainstorming is, one is a CI server. So I don't know if you have heard about this, but it's basically there are open source tools available which can monitor the Git repositories, and whenever there's a commit, they can pull the latest code and then they compile the code, run tests, and can also generate artifacts. So, like for example, if we talk about the mUzima Android Git repository, then as soon as Win merges and pushes that to the master tag, this PI can pull the changes and then compile, run the test, and generate the APK. So it can also publish the APKs. If you go to the CI website, then you can see all the APKs, all the builds, and you can, if you take the latest builds APK, then you'll always be sure that the APK that is over there has all the changes in the master branch, which means anything in the testing column would have like the latest APK will have all the changes required for testing the tickets under the in testing column. So, and it will also solve the problem of not running the current tests. So right now, I think one problem is that because we don't have a CI, it's mostly left to the developers to run the tests. So sometimes we might forget to run. Like basically, if you leave it to a manual step, then there is always a chance that people might forget to run it before they push changes. So having a CI will ensure that every commit goes through compile stage and running of tests. Otherwise, we are dependent on one person doing, like most likely now Win is forced to run the tests because there's no automated setup. So setting up a CI is going to solve some of the first 3 points. So you'll be able to generate artifacts automatically, and you'll be able to find artifacts by going to the CI page, and you'll also ensure that all the tests are being run. Now for the last part, which is most of the testing is manual, this is something that requires more thought. So some of the things that we could come up with, so there at a high level there are like this is in my mind. At a high level, there are 3 major components in mUzima. One is the OMARTs, which are mostly server-side, OpenMRS server-side components. So these can be tested using unit tests, and unit tests are easy to write. So I think with a bit of discipline, as long as we ensure that for every ticket that we pick up, we write tests. OMARTs can be easily covered using unit tests, and you can run them in the CI server. Now the second part is the Android application, which is the hardest to test when it comes to automation. So we were looking at a few options. Like we already have some unit tests, but you cannot test everything using unit tests in Android. So we need to use other options like RoboElectric, which is a kind of testing wherein it stuffs out the Android API so that you can write tests without the Android environment running. So you can test a lot of functionality with that, but again, it will not be sufficient for testing everything, because in a way because you're stuffing out Android, there may be cases where the test runs when it is in a stubbed mode, but the real application on Android will fail. So again, it's not something you can use for everything. Now the last option is UI tests. Now there are a lot of frameworks available for Android UI testing, but none of them were mature in recent times. So I have never used it in the past because of a lot of stability issues and performance issues. But when I look at some of them recently, they have matured a lot, and at least now the stability problem is solved. The performance problem is still there, but there are ways of working around it. So we spiced on a few tools, and we have written a test using Appium. So we have written a wizard test which navigates through the wizard and goes to the dashboard and verifies that the cohorts and the forms were downloaded. So I'll just show the test in a while. So yeah, so what we can do for Android application is identify the core of application, which like I could think of Wizard and maybe two other flows. So we can sit with like AdaU, and Win can give us feedback, and then we can come up with a core workflow of mUzima. Like when I say core, it means that if that is broken, then mUzima cannot be used on the field. So just define the minimal core flow for the mUzima, and then automate that using the UI tests. And these will ensure that the core flow is always functioning, and for the rest of them, you should try to write the unit tests and roboelectric tests as whenever they are possible. And the last component is forms. So forms can be tested again through UI, but it's going to be very slow. So I still don't have a good suggestion for this. So if others have anything in mind, then we can discuss that. But this is something that we still need to solve: how to test forms. Uh, yeah. So that is a summary. So if you are clear about this, then I can just demo the tests that the UI test that we have written. But do people have any questions?
I think this applied to Wayne and Simon more, and also Achana.
I think I really like the suggestion. I think it's going to be really good for us to move forward with all this, except for the UI testing, because from my experience with UI testing, they are very brittle, and it's pretty hard to say when your UI testing is passed, it's going to be working in the field. And then a lot of, if you make changes, one of the hardest part is maintaining to make sure that the UI testing is going to still work, because I never use Appium, but I use Selenium a lot, and Selenium have a really hard time to just picking up elements in the UI. But other than that, I think I'm okay with the.
So when yeah, I agree with most of the things that you said. That was also the reason why, like I said, that even in my experience, I have never tested Android applications through UI tests because of the same reason that you mentioned. But one thing on the stability, it has improved quite a lot. So the Appium test that I've written, it works consistently without any random failures. So I've tested it on Genymotion, but I've not tested on the device because device has other bugs. But I think the stability issue has been resolved to a great extent. Performance, I agree, yes, it is still pretty slow. In terms of maintainability, right? I think so the main thing that I am proposing is let's identify the core flow and automate only that using unit tests. So which is probably 4 or maximum 5 tests, which we automate through unit. Okay, so yeah, as I
Yeah,
was
go
saying,
ahead, Kieran.
yeah, maximum 4 or 5 UI tests, and then the rest of them we still do at the unit level. So the main reason why I'm suggesting UI tests is there is no other option out there for Android other than UI tests. So it's hard to write unit tests, and even RoboElectric is not going to be reliable to ensure, like it won't ensure that the core flow is going to be always working. So we can keep lesser number of tests and we can run it with every build. So that way we ensure that if something fails, that we know that it's mostly because of some error in the application. But yeah, we have to, like, if there is a actual requirement change due to which the test has to be updated, then that is something we'll have to do. So when, as part of the ticket, we have to identify that and also ensure that the test is fixed. Let's say in the wizard we add a new screen, then we'll have to handle that in the test also. That is something you can like, we can take a call, but in my opinion, other than if we don't do the UI tests, then there is no other way of ensuring that the code flow is working. And to resolve some of the things that you highlighted, we have to keep less number of tests and run it frequently. And yeah. And if there's actually a functionality change which is breaking it, then we'll have to change the test accordingly. So that's what I feel. But yeah, it's we can, if we feel that it is a lot of overhead, then yeah, we can leave it out. But I don't see any other way we can test some of those core pieces without writing a unit test.
So, what do we need? What are the action items in order for us to set up the to implement the CI as well as the automatic testing?
So I'm going to send separate emails on that. So for CI, we need to identify which tool we use. So I'll come up with a few suggestions. So I think the CI part is simple, but the automated tests is something that we have to think more because of the issues that Vin mentioned. So like performance is a big problem. So some of the tests might take because we have the wizard always in the front, and because the test always starts by installing application, some of the tests might take a long time. So we'll have to do a lot of parallelization. So we'll definitely need some infrastructure like new VMs and all that. But for automated tests, we might need to run it on device or so there are a few different alternatives. So I'll send out different mail, and so this call was only to bring up all these things, and then if you're interested, then I'll send out detailed information on what can be done and what are the choices that we have.
Okay, sounds good. Simon, I wonder if you have any comments.
Yeah, I think I would say I really like this because eventually in future, if we forced to have the discipline to keep writing tests, I think we'll have some discipline that will help us eliminate some of the bugs that usually come. So I've not worked in this kind of setup before, and already I'm feeling like it's something I would really want to see happen.
Thanks, Simon. Wayne, do you have any more comments, feedback to add on this? Okay, cool. So thank you, Kieran, for bringing this up. I think everyone are excited on this and getting more like standardized and making sure that we do the proper testing in automatic way. I think that's great. So maybe you can help us to we say probably need to assign main person who will do what. Okay. So Win is just typing some of the suggestion on the chat, but I'm not sure if you guys can see on the chat on the side. I think this is really, really good timing, especially we are getting ready to set up our infrastructure to open up to bigger community, and we need to, to do things in more like professional way.
So you want me to demo what like how the test is written and like just for the benefit of other developers? So one thing, so I just want to respond to the main person that Vin said. So yeah, I can lead this. I can help people in understanding this, but I still think that it's something that all developers should take up as a responsibility rather than one person owning, because then you're always dependent on that person. So at least, like anyway, it's 4 or 5 of us. So after a while, I think, and there'll be only 4 or 5 tests. So that is something I think we should, all of us should own, and I'll provide enough context for people to understand. And if you want, I can demo the test, just show the how the tests are written.
Right. Okay. So Kieran, thank you so much. We'll wait for you to hear from you if you when we are ready to do another round and also demo as well.
Sorry, for the demo, I can do it now.
Okay,
for the
cool.
suggestions, I'll send.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So I'll first show the test. So let me just share the screen. Can you see my screen? Can you see the code?
Yes.
It's mostly going to be technical, so it's for developers, but you will see the flow of the test. So it's a general typical JUnit test. So in the setup, you basically install the mUzima application. So whatever device, either a device or emulator or Genymotion, whatever we use, the mUzima application is installed. So you tell where the APK is, and then based on that it will install. And the actual test starts by, so the first step is to start the application, so which will bring up the disclaimer screen. Then you read the terms and condition, which is basically you scroll through the text and then you come to the end of the screen. And once the agree button gets enabled, you click on that. So that's the next step, which is agree to terms and conditions. Then you enter the username and password and click on login when you're on the login screen. After that, so there is a time delay between the logging in and the cohort loading. So you need to wait for that screen to load. So once the cohort loads, you select the cohort. So in my case, selecting the CDM cohort, which shows up by default, and clicking on the next. So this download selected cohorts, clicks on the next button. So the next step is to download the form templates. Again, so you need to wait for the form template page to load. And once you download, you need to scroll down to the registration form. So in this test, I'm only downloading the components. So I just select the registration form, and so scroll down to the registration form, and then select it, and then click on next. So similarly, you have the location screen, provider, concept, barcode scan. So in the end, you end up going to the dashboard page. So once you're on the dashboard page, the last set of, so you do the verification. So what I observed is based on the cohort and the forms that you have selected, the status is on the dashboard. It says that 1 cohort synced and 8 total and 5 forms synced. So I'm asserting on those conditions. So let me just run this so that you see how it does the actual test run. So I'm going to share. I'm running this on Genymotion for now. This is the test running, and then it's it's launched the application and it's trying to scroll to the end. Some of this, as you can see, it's a bit slow. So this is the performance issues that I was talking about. So we need to limit the number of tests that we have for this.
So I guess because you're doing a screen share, you can't really tell, but it's the test that's running and filling out all of these fields. It's not us who are doing it. Just wanted to make that clear.
So now it's searching for the mUzima the registration form. Scroll, the search is a bit, we need to optimize it. Sometimes it scrolls multiple times. That downloaded the form template.
So Kiran, you guys are on mute, just FYI.
No, I was not speaking now. So basically running through the wizard and selecting the minimal data that is required, just to ensure that the wizard step is functioning. So now on the dashboard, it is checking that under cohorts there is a one thing total. So at the end of it, the application is closed and you can see the test. I'm just going to share IntelliJ again. You can see that the test has passed here. In the page object, there is actually a proper way of doing it because so I had very little time to get this running. So what I've done for now is I've implemented my own page objects. So let me just bring up. So the first one is a disclaimer. So are you able to see the disclaimer screen? Okay. So this is the first step, which is so there's something called a driver that gets passed around. This is the main interface. Like this is what we use to talk to APM. So to scroll, this is basically scrolling down to Indiana University on the disclaimer page, which is the last text that comes up on the terms and conditions, and then agree to terms and conditions. So you find the element by name, which is agree text, and then you click on that, and so that is next. So we know that once you agree, it takes you to login screen. So what I do is I return back the login page. Now if you go to the login page, this has all those other methods to enter username, which again, so basically it's finding all the elements by name, and then clicking on the element and sending keys. This is how you type. Send keys is how you type into the text box. Same thing for password. And finally, the login is you find the login element by name and then click on that. So this is the pattern that's been followed for the rest of the pages. But there is a APM provides a way to define all these elements using annotation. I didn't get time to do that, but when we eventually do the test, we can use that. It should be lesser code than what I've written.
I like it. I think we can have the we call it end-to-end testing, at least in my place. We can run all this UI testing probably like once a day, and then the unit testing will be on every commit, because I think it takes some time for the this test to run, and it's very dependent on how quick the the test environment, pulling the data from the server side.
Yeah, sure. So when we actually do the CI, then I'll come back to all of you people with suggestions on how to structure. So yeah, we'll have a build for mUzima Android, which is going to build the APK, and there'll be another build which is running all these tests, which will consume the APK that is generated by the mUzima Android build. So we'll discuss the frequency of run and what time to run, how whether we run it on emulator or real device. So all that something that we need to talk later. So the details I'll come back to you guys later. So I just wanted to know if you wanted to go ahead and do this. So that's why I did this demo.
Yeah, I think another thing to look at probably if are we able to run this headless, meaning without GUI, because most likely we will host it in I don't know if we're planning to host it in DigitalOcean or Linode, and most of those I'm not sure if they have like
Yeah,
uh,
I'll check those things. I'll check those things.
yeah, check if we can run it without UI option.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is. I'm still not clear on where to run. Like whether should we run it on real device or emulator or Gemotion, because each has its own set of problems and advantages. So I'll contact you guys with more details later. It's not that easy as you said, but I think it's something that we can try out at least to ensure that the core of the application is functioning right. I'm done unless you have any questions.
Sorry, I was on mute. So this is really great, Kieran. We're so excited. Hopefully we can get something finalized and then get ready by August, and so that it would be in line with the launch of the new mUzima website, as well as their own version of Jira and a wiki. So we have, yeah, go ahead, Kieran.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello?
So we have, yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. So I am done. So I'll get back with the details and how much time it's going to take, what infrastructure we need later.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Thanks. So we have about 15 minutes left. Is there any items anyone want to discuss? That include the implementation side as well.
None from my side.
So Derek, how's the error resolution going?
I'm trying. So far, I've done 28, and I was looking at a number of other error types, whereby, for example, it's giving me an error on the type of maybe medication or diagnosis, for example, cancer or hypertension, as a cause of why the individual went to seek medication. So I'm supposed to go and see Savai after this, so that he can help me in a way forward about that. So maybe Yeah, the visiting survey, I know you heard me.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks. Lawrence, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here, Eda.
Do you want, since we have time left, do you want to go through the suggested UI change for the phase 2 on the error resolution?
I don't have my computer with me. I'm using Surprise, but I don't know. Maybe I could just try verbalize that. But before I mentioned anything on the UI, we piloted out the screening form. I missed out on the Friday call, so I couldn't give any feedback. We realized since we are screening numbers close to 100 per screening session, it turned out to be almost impossible to register everyone and assign an MRS number. But at the same time, I think CDM requires to have all that data somehow in soft copy for purposes of reporting. So all we were able to do during that piloting is register the positively screened patients into production, but the rest had to be written by hand on the registers. So I don't know, we might have to rethink that and see other ways of being able to get that data in soft copy, because it's almost impossible to get that one during the screening process.
Do you mean like, so I don't quite follow this one. So what was the actual challenge?
So out of 100 persons screened during the screening, on the screening day, assuming 40 of them turned out to be positive for diabetes and hypertension. So using mUzima, it turned out to be impossible to register all the 100 persons screened on the day because of, sometimes it just slows down, and it's almost not practical to use the application the entire day and register everyone. So I think it's,
yeah.
I don't know.
So are you? Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not possible to register 100 patients. Is it like the device, the perform?
No,
Do you refer to the device limitation, the performance limitation on mUzima, or?
No, it's not a mUzima problem. That's why I'm saying we might have to rethink otherwise as CDM, because it just slows down the whole process. By the time you're done with one patient, you have another 3 waiting, that kind of thing. So it's just the speed of the users that's mainly the issue here.
Oh, I see. So you guys probably need to provide more training or have more providers or person to help with the registration then.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe more than one device per screening.
Yeah.
That would maybe sort out the issue. So it's not a mUzima related issue.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was wondering why it's not possible. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, and then on the UI, I think I suggested to have we get rid of the sender column. Can we share screen? Let me just log in 1 minute.
Okay, cool.
So, Lawrence, just a quick question. So, I understand the situation that you have too many people and the wait time is really because it takes too long to fill out the forms or to register the patient. So, approximately how many people do you have who are actually helping out with filling the forms and on an average?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just curious to understand that when you say that you have let's say 100 people and it took like 45 people, 45 of them tested positive for hypertension and diabetes, and then you were talking about how it became difficult or not really fast enough for you to fill out everyone, and that's why you had to handwrite some of the data. So approximately how many people do you have, so if you, let's say 100 people show up for the screening, how many healthcare providers are actually there to service them?
Sorry, Shweta, are you asking about how many devices were actually used?
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
We used three tablets.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So maybe just to quickly go through this, I propose to have the sender column removed. And again, this is subject to edits by any other groups that think it's different. Sender group to be removed, and then we'll probably have the provider name appearing here. And then the kind has to change and maybe specify the project form in detail by the encounter name maybe. And then the following two columns should be removed. That's submitted. Oh, sorry, these ones are to be kept. Sorry, we maintain this. And then we'll add, besides the location, the provider name, we should have the provider ID and the location ID as well. And then the last two can actually go, because I don't think they are very useful at this point, unless we need the error message that has to be a bit more detailed, depending on how it's going to be displayed. And then once you get into the form, I presume the first four rows are going to mainly be what's appearing on the other view, like back here. The columns here are the same ones that will appear here. And then the other thing that I thought would be useful, if at all it's possible programmatically, is to have a link. If this is an encounter, for instance, that's linked to a registration form that's on the error queue, such that you do not end up resolving the encounter, yet it's the registration form that's blocking it from being processed. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, for this one, I think what Lawrence was trying to say is that if there is a corresponding registration form in the error queue, that registration forms should have like a validation that registration forms should be resolved before the form templates, the form data, the corresponding form data, so that it would reduce less conflict. This is important for especially for MPAP implementation team, that they to go through to make sure that this really satisfy what they need before we actually lay out the specifications and the development work starts to start. Lawrence, is it okay for us to assign you to be the responsible person to make sure that all the feedback are collected and then harmonized before we do another mockup and UI mockup and create relevant tickets for those development tasks?
So this is to say the features all the projects want to see on the UI.
Yeah, correct. I think that would be really important, so that they will not come back and say that, oh, we need this and that, but we will not part of the conversation.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Martin. Awesome. Is there anything else you can share with us on your CDM implementation, Lawrence?
No, I think that should be all.
Awesome.
Maybe is there progress on the demographics update? Maybe.
Oh yeah, that one I still I posted another comment. I think three of the suggested fields actually it's kind of the same thing, like the community units, the location, the encounter location, and I think it needs to be clarified on that one before we actually consolidate the final list. I want to give folks a couple more days just to make sure that that is the list before we say that they should be updated on both the demographic form as well as the demographic update form.
Okay. I think Agustin also gave feedback on the marshalling error.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So if you can help out with that one, that'd be great, Lawrence. Just to to be the person to make sure that everyone film in, and then we get the final list before we create tickets. Like to make sure like the assigned developers work on it. I think that'll be very important.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Those are great feedback.
Yeah, Win, Simon. I just want to check. Like Manisha was trying to test a form this morning, and we tried to submit it to the test server to see if it's still available on the queue data. And there seems to be an error on the page. So I was just wondering if any of you guys noticed it or knows why. If any of you guys are speaking, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm checking it, Sweeta. It should be back on now. Probably one of the out of memory error.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Wayne. If there's nothing else more, I think we can end the call a couple minutes early if it's okay for everyone.
Yeah, we're okay, Ada. Nothing else from us.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Just want to remind you that our Friday call has been moved to Thursday because Friday is the holiday for Kenya and probably some folks in India. So we'll have the call on Thursday. We will chat again through the IRC tomorrow during this one. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.